Hello, ECE 175. How are you? Hope you are well. We're going to go over in this recorded lecture, Chapter 8, Sensory Play. All right, let me share the screen. Sensory Play, Chapter 8. So hopefully you have your book open to page 211. We're going to use that quite a bit to follow along, all right? So let's talk about sensory experiences. Did the PowerPoint a little bit different. I'm going to use these questions to guide my lecture, but I'm hoping that doing it this way will allow you to come back to it, and you should be able to answer these questions to be able to get, if you are able to answer these questions, then you have a firm understanding of sensory experiences and why they're important, okay? So what is the definition of sensory play? If you look on page 211, experiences or play that uses the senses and offer opportunities for free exploration in a variety of curriculum areas. So any experience that uses the senses, right? And what are our senses? Our smell, our touch, our taste, our hearing, our vision, okay? Experience that use those senses and offer opportunities for free exploration in a variety of curriculum areas. So please remember, true sensory play allows exploration using the senses, and it is free play, and it integrates different areas of curriculum. Why is sensory play important? Well, the book talks about young children learn best through sensory experiences. All of the theorists talk about that. Brain research. We've talked about brain research a little bit. It talks about how important brain development and cognitive development is, or how important receiving information from our senses is how our brain develops and how we developed the ability to think. So young children learn best through sensory experiences. Sensory experiences that offer them opportunities for free exploration, for free play, okay? Sensory experiences are another way for the body, or are the way for the body to give the brain information. Sensory experiences are the way the body can give the brain information, okay? That is why it is crucial that early childhood, at least early childhood, on a day-to-day basis, are being given the opportunity to play freely using all of their senses. And we as professionals, early childhood professionals, should be providing materials and experiences that give children the opportunity to use their senses. Sensory experiences, okay? Sensory play. So what are the main sensory learning centers? Every program that considers themselves quality should have should offer water, sand, mud, blocks, woodworking, and some cooking experiences, depending on the age level, okay? Specifically for us, water, mud, sand, blocks, okay? And how often should children be offered sensory experiences? All day, every day. Okay? All day, every day. You don't have to translate that, Guadalupe.
Okay.
Oh, you did?
May transcribe?
Yes, sorry, transcribe. Although it's a little translation too.
Okay.
Sensory experiences are so important in providing the brain the information they need and for whole child development, that they should be provided every day, okay? Which theorists believed activities using senses and motor skills are necessary for best whole child development? Well, that's Piaget. Remember the sensory motor stage, okay? The sensory motor stage. You believe that children need to be active participants in using their senses and motor skills, okay? That it supports the whole child development. And how does it support the whole child development? If you were to look at page 212, 213, okay? Sensory play offers opportunities for large muscle and small muscle development. Children get the opportunity to use their large muscles and small muscles. If you look at the picture, okay, right now, he's using his large muscles to hold the water container up there, his small muscles to hold the bottle and to push down the button. And then he will use his large muscles to carry that container that he's filling with water, right? Eye-hand coordination. I'll show you in a few more slides, tons of materials that we can provide in sensory experiences that help develop eye-hand coordination. You can see in this picture, it's eye-hand coordination for him to be able to push that small red button on that laundry detergent container, okay? Also, this is pre-writing, because eye-hand coordination and small muscle development is what is needed for writing. Sensory experiences are pre-writing. There's also vestibular and proprioceptive parts of the brain that are strengthened by sensory experiences, okay? Vestibular and proprioceptive parts of the brain are what help children, or all of us, know how our body works in space. It's balance, awareness of our body, knowing how to move in the environment. That is vestibular and proprioceptive. Children using their senses in play translates into strong vestibular and proprioceptive sections of their brain. If you've ever heard of a story on in a blog or on Facebook or anything about children not being able to sit still or not being able to stay on their chair, they fall out of their chair in elementary school a lot. That is vestibular and proprioceptive parts of the brain. Okay. Also, cognitive development. Sensory experiences allow children to develop cognitively as they explore concepts like properties of water that you see in the picture. Measuring, comparing, observing, problem solving, classifying, comparing, cause and effect, evaluating, volume, measurement. They construct explanations and understandings through reasoning and logical thinking. You look at that picture, he had to construct in his thought processes where he was going to place that container so the water fell into that. Right? And then how heavy can he fill it so that he can still carry it? That's reasoning and logical thinking. Also, cognitive development, children develop language as they plan their sensory play, as they discuss what they're going to do, what they want to do, what they need to do. Also, when children are allowed to engage with sensory materials freely, naturally, they're going to need to cooperate and have social interaction as children work together and share materials. So those are ways that sensory experiences support whole child development. Also important is, and if you need to rewind this and start writing things down or highlighting it in your books or highlighting on your PowerPoint, these are all intended goals that you can use on your homework assignment when you create a sensory experience. Everything I listed in regards to large muscle, small muscle, eye-hand coordination, the cognitive development that I listed, the scientific concepts like measuring, comparing, observing, all of those things that I listed. Those all could be, depending on what you plan for a sensory experience, listed in your intended goals. All right. So what are the purposes and objectives? I'm going to change that so that it's consistent with our experience plans. It should be goals and objectives, okay? Goals and objectives. On page 218, it says purposes and objectives. But for our purposes, to be consistent with our experience plan, these are goals and objectives, okay? So some of the goals for experience plans, along with what we've already talked about, is that children can develop inquiry-based learning. Inquiry-based learning. The definition for inquiry-based learning is investigating to gather information, okay? Investigating to gather information. Inquiry-based. They're doing something to gain information, okay? And that's really about triggering curiosity and activating a child's curiosity. And it's more than just asking a child what he or she knows, okay? It's really transferring that responsibility to the child, giving it back to the child, letting them naturally come up with those questions, and then finding out the answer, right? In a rich environment, that can happen, okay? Some objectives for that happens through water, sand, mud, right? Them thinking about, what is mud? How do we create mud, right? What is a rock? What makes sand? How do I get blue? How do I make this material liquidy? How do I make it thicker? Those are questions that children will naturally come up with. We can't offer them also intentionally, but really offering experiences and materials so children can come up with their own inquiring curiosity questions, and then having a rich environment so they can find the answer. That's inquiry-based learning. So that is a goal for sensory experiences. Another is simple, children get to perform simple experiments, although not simple to them, right? Like predicting whether objects will sink or float, okay? That's an objective, right? The objective is providing materials where children will be able to predict whether objects can sink or float. The goal is that they're going to provide, or they're going to perform an experiment. So if you look on page 218, you can see some more objectives for performing simple experiments. Another goal is measuring, comparing, and problem solving, which I mentioned earlier. And there's lots of ways that you can do that. And you can look on page 218. Another goal is for them to be able to play creatively, play creatively. You can allow them or offer them materials so that they can experiment with sand mold. Bless you. Determine whether dry sand or wet sand works. Have boat races. Problem solve how to get the boats across the water. Make designs in sands with sand combs made from plastic containers or combs from the dollar store. Set up a truck wash for sandbox construction toys. I put out plastic babies and allow them to paint them. And then how do we get these clean? Now how do we clean them? Another goal is, I already said that, is developing vocabulary. So much language when they're experiencing sensory materials. Pour, fill, flow, spray, squirt, splatter, empty, full, shallow, deep, measure, absorb, droplet, sift, sink, float, evaporate, melt, dissolve, stretch. So much vocabulary. If you use vocabulary as an intended goal for the experience, the sensory experience that you plan, be specific and also list some of the vocabulary. Okay? Don't just list vocabulary without some examples. If you just put vocabulary, I will follow up and ask you to be specific, okay? So how do we plan an environment that allows for sensory experiences, that allows children the freedom to have inquiry-based learning, create simple experiments, measure, compare, and problem solve, play creatively, develop new vocabulary, develop large muscle and small muscles, use eye-hand coordination, strengthen vestibular and proprioceptive sections of the brain, develop cognitive skills. The things that I want to say about that is, one, it should be indoors and outdoors, okay? You should be providing rich materials and freedom so that there are sensory experiences indoors and outdoors. Outdoors is even a much better place for that, because then you don't have to worry about mess, okay? And almost every picture I show you in the next few slides is going to be outdoors, okay? There is some guidance that you will need to consider, right? And this will help you fill out the box regarding guidance, okay? If you do water play, make sure that you empty the water containers after the experience is done, so that it doesn't become a drowning hazard, okay? Avoid any materials in the classroom that children might be allergic to. Don't use anything that might be a choking hazard. Make sure you clean up, especially if you do it inside and it's a tile floor, you have materials available so you can either clean as they go so it doesn't become slippery, okay? Never leave children unattended around any type of water, okay? Limit the number of children often at the sand and water table. The book talks about no more than 4 for preschool and school-aged children. All right, so those are some guidances. So now I'm just going to take you through some props and materials and some pictures of sensory experiences that I hope will inspire you and also show you how easy it is to provide an environment that is rich with materials where children can create their own sensory experiences, and also some intentional materials or experiences. Turkey basters or droppers, rotary egg beaters, spray bottles, funnels, spatulas, measuring cups and spoons, gelatin molds, scoops of all different kinds, okay? Thrift stores, dollar stores, where you can buy scoops or measuring cups, salt shakers, sieves. Those are those things that you are like netted and you shake like the flour through them. Those are great in sandboxes. Scales, a colander where you like you would typically drain a like spaghetti or pasta from. Containers with lids, combs and picks. Slotted spoons, spoons and shovels, buckets, pails, tubs, bowls and pitchers, paintbrushes, potato mashers, coffee cans. Okay, let me go here first. All of these are some examples of materials that I believe really should be available all day, every day, okay, especially outside, so that they really can create deep and rich sensory experiences that allow for the whole child development that I already listed in the last few slides. There's some examples of some materials that you can provide that are messy, but definitely sensory experiences, okay? Clean mud, okay? I don't have it pictured, but that is ivory soap, grated, mixed with some warm water and some torn up toilet paper. Probably not a good idea to do now. And right now, actually in childcare centers, they're really, excuse me, I'm thirsty, not encouraging a lot of sensory materials that children will share, just to put that out there. But this is non-COVID also experiences, all right? Hair gel, just in tubs or in a Ziploc bag taped so that the children can feel it. Slime, okay? Soap suds, those hand egg basters in water with a little bit of soap in it creates amazing suds. Shaving cream, silly putty, paint, baking soda and vinegar. Up here, that's what this is. I have big tubs. I don't know if you can barely see there on the right, the little boy with the red hat. He's scooping out of a big bowl of baking soda. And then I have containers of vinegar with droppers. So it's eye-hand coordination. It's fine motor. It's experiments. It's cause and effect. And so much more. And lastly, mud. Mud. Okay? The book was intentional about listing it as a main sensory experience. Okay? The consistency of mud is like nothing else, and what children can do with it. And guess what? What's the worst thing that's going to happen if they play in mud? Will the world end if children get to play in mud? Weigh the benefits over the cost. Yes, your job will be a little bit harder, but the benefits, everything that I listed, and their joy fully outweigh. The picture in the bottom left, that's a 12-month-old with a spoon digging mud into buckets, okay? Some more materials that we can provide that encourage or allow for sensory play experiences. Water. Water. At my school, we have hoses in 3 different areas that children can access whenever they want. For the most part, I would say 95% of the time. And this 3 series of pictures is what you can see what happens when they have freedom. They created this, okay? They brought this slide over, put it in this area, filled this in-between area here with water, got the bucket. You can see here sliding it down. I remember this little girl right here saying, I want to do it, but I don't know if I want to do it. I don't know if it's safe. I'm going to watch him, see if he does it. That's what she was saying to me there. And then guess who did it next? Right? The self-awareness, the self-discovery that happens through rich sensory experiences, okay? Wet sponges and washcloths, loofahs, finger painting, aluminum foil, plastic wrap. I don't know if any of you have seen that experience where teachers turn over their tables and then wrap plastic wrap around the legs of their table or their chairs, then allow children to use markers or paint and paint on it. Rice and beans are great sensory materials. Coffee sand. Coffee sand is what you see here in this red bucket. And this one on the right. Coffee sand is cornmeal, dried used coffee grounds, which Starbucks used to give me all the time, and I'm sure after this is all over, they'll give me again. So it's coffee sand, dried coffee grounds, salt, flour. Yeah, that's it. Okay. So it's 2 parts cornmeal, 1 part coffee sand, half a part or 1 part flour and half a part salt. So if you do 2 cups cornmeal, 1 cup coffee sand, 1 cup flour, half a cup of salt. It won't be as much as that, but that's the ratio. And then you add stuff to it. Okay? For it to be good coffee sand, it has to be well mixed because it will clump, which is part of the fun. And so you see in this picture, he has a potato masher and a wood masher, right? And then here we use the coffee pods for them to be able to measure and sift and sort and scoop. Aquarium rocks, cloud dough. Cloud dough is what he's making here. It's cornstarch and hair conditioner. And it becomes this great Play-Doh, soft, wonderfully smelling material. Cornmeal, kitty litter, okay? Get the one that don't have chemicals in it. And it is a great sensory experience. That's what's in this blue bucket right here is kitty litter. Rain and wind. Rain and wind. Why do we not let children play outside when it's raining and windy? Those are great sensory experiences, okay? Water beads. If you go, why buy them in big quantities on Amazon? But they're the beads that when you put them in water, they expand, okay? So you fill buckets and then you just add materials, okay? Masking tape. You see here, this is one of many pictures that I have of children creating experiences with masking tape. The focus and the planning that it took for him to do that, the negotiating with all of the other friends so they don't tear it down, so they work together, okay? Shaving cream, Play-Doh, herbs with mocajetes, right? Is that what those are?
Yes.
Yes, the mocajetes. You see that here and up here on this picture here, okay? Fresh herbs and mocajetes with little containers of, where's my cursor? My little containers of water. And oftentimes I'll put essential oil in the water so it has a smell. With daubers, so it's a fine motor, eye-hand coordination. Measuring, scissors, salt shakers, slime, bubbles, sorry, Play-Doh, spaghetti. Spaghetti is fantastic. If you cook it in water with a little bit of oil, it's this great consistency so it doesn't stick together. And then you add some paint to it, and then you add tongs and scissors and materials for them to sort it. Oobleck or goop. This is cornstarch and water. I don't remember what the specific ratio is, but look it up because it's important to make good oobleck, okay? Oobleck is the material that, and you can see it's stringy and wet, but once you grab it in your hand and you squeeze it, it becomes hard. The heat of the hand makes it a non-Newtonian material and it gets hard. And then as soon as you open your hand, as you can see in hers, it just slides and goops out of your hand. Juicers. I have about 15 cheap dollar store juicers. And anytime I can get my hand on a massive amount of lemons, limes, oranges, grapefruits. Juicers, right? I tell parents it's pre-writing because they get to work their fingers, okay? Shaving cream with paint, bubbles, okay? What you see there is a big yogurt cup where there's hole punches on the lids on each side. And then I fill the cups about 3/4 of the way with water and then Dawn dish soap. and then let it sit overnight. And then you put a straw in one of the holes and you blow. And outside of the other hole, it shoots out at first, which is awesome, but then it just fills with bubbles. If you add paint to it, the bubbles are colored. And I think you can see the green tint on those. This is more coffee sand. Some more shaving cream. Some more water experiences. So this is the same area, different day, right? You see the hose? And they tied one of those bombo wraps that you hold babies in and created a slide. I mean, a swing. That happens when children can have free exploration with sensory materials. All right, so that is the end of chapter 8. Okay, so just keep in mind that your homework assignment for chapter 8 will be to create an experience, a sensory experience. Okay, a sensory experience, not a sensory lesson where you're teaching them any of the goals that I listed or that we talked about. Okay, you're providing materials. Your objective is how they're going to use those materials. Your intended goals are what you intend for them to receive from that, the learning, the developmental skills. Okay? Remember the guidance. You can also find that in the chapter and on my PowerPoint. Okay? The learning center on top is sensory play or sensory experiences. All right? That is the end of chapter 8.